Hey, folks, we are back once again with Ethan Forman of the Gloucester Times to tell us about all things happening on Cape and specifically in Gloucester. He's been a busy guy once again lately. How you doing, Ethan?
I'm hanging in there.
Yeah.
I'm doing better than Chris Rock.
You are. It's early. You never know. I saw Andrea Holbush in the newsroom. You never know.
Yeah. So there you go. But speaking of doing better, CODA, Gloucester.
What a windfall for the city.
So great.
I mean, I was thinking about this because I wrote about it this week, and I was thinking there's been a lot of films that have been shot in Gloucester.
Mhm.
It's not as if Gloucester hasn't been on the big screen, including The Perfect Storm.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that was an homage that paid homage to Gloucester. And we have Wicked Tuna. We have a reality show. And the city is kind of blessed with that kind of exposure. And there have been films that have used Gloucester as a backdrop.
Mm-hmm.
By the Sea, I was told a lot of that was shot in Gloucester, and they
Definitely. Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the movie CODA, that was also shot. It was if you watch CODA, if you've seen that movie, Gloucester High does not look like that. In case you didn't realize,
Yeah,
it does not look like the former Briscoe Middle School in Beverly, which is where they shot it. But this, just trying to distinguish it, this was a love letter, as someone said, to Gloucester, and not just to Gloucester, but to its fishing community.
But can we point out that the Berkeley School of Music also does not look like it did in CODA because it was the Shale and Lou?
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I was fooled. I was like, oh, Berkeley's got a really nice performance space.
it's cozy.
I know. That was Rockport. That was Rockport.
Gail McCarthy was telling me no.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what the whole idea is that this film was a big win for the deaf community. I mean, it really was.
Mm-hmm.
And Marlene Maitland won the Academy Award for Best Actress 35 years ago.
Yeah, wow.
Bless her God. Okay, with William Hurt. 35 years before
And
another.
she looked great this time. 35 years later. 35 years later, she's just as beautiful.
I thought she should have been up for an Oscar because I think her character really nailed it as a fisherman's wife. I mean, it was a great film. It had it had comedy, it had some drama. It was, but it really not only just highlighted Gloucester as a place, but its fishing community as a real family struggling to survive. And then on top of that, a deaf family as well, and having their child being a translator. Now, I talked to Angela Sanfilippo, and she pointed this out to Gail, and she pointed out to me, it's that the oldest daughter becomes a translator for immigrant families, and they have to put their dreams aside and stay back and help their aging parents and grandparents with make doctor's appointments and translate for them. So it's not only to an homage to the deaf community, but to young women who may have to give up their dreams and translate for Italian, Sicilian, Portuguese families.
Yeah, Angela has to do that.
And that's a great point. So many people
Yeah.
around here have done that. Yeah.
Exactly. They had to navigate their families through this new country because they had learned English. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's she said to me that a lot of the families saw themselves on screen, and that's really where a film really hits a home run, where people can relate to it in the place where it was shot, and it wasn't just Gloucester as a backdrop. This was paid homage to Gloucester, and I got to go on a movie set, but it's not a movie set; it's a fishing boat. It's Paul Vitale's Angel and Rose.
And Angela Rose.
Angela, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm new to Gloucester.
Yeah.
Angela Rose. Hopefully I got it right this time.
Hey, I gotta put in a plug here for the Angela Rose. I subscribe to Cape Ann Fresh Catch, which delivers locally caught dayboat fish to your door, right?
You're the Fresh Catch Co-op that's mentioned in the movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I just got the email saying my monkfish from the the Angela and Rose is going to be delivered, maybe even while we're on this call. So how do you like that?
Yeah, and what a great guy. And he also took the time. Part of the plot twist, I don't want to ruin it, CODA for anybody, but part of the plot twist has to do with all the regulations. They have to battle with the auction, the fish auction, but they also have to battle with their regulations. And I've been trying to come up to speed on these as well, especially the at-sea monitors, the people who have to go on the boat and look at their catch and count their discards. And I had to write a story about this about 2 weeks ago. And I wish I'd watched CODA then, because that's exactly what's going to happen now. New England Fisheries Management Council, all these abbreviations, is looking to NOAA to implement rules for 100% of trips to have monitors or some sort of technology on board.
Yeah.
And in the movie, that was a big plot twist. Now, the government right now is paying for some of that cost. They have to
the boats, they have to pick up the slack. What isn't covered?
Well, Paul, so I was on the boat and I said, Paul, can you explain this to me? So it was like, it became his movie set for CODA, became a classroom, and he showed me what he has to do. He has to log into a website on his phone when he's going to go out for a trip and book trips. And then he's got another like tablet on his boat that can constantly send out a signal to say, hey, this is where my boat is. It's his, if he misses, if that gets turned off, he can't go out for a month. He calls it his ankle bracelet. But see, that's what CODA did. It really, for me, I got to go on his boat. I got to meet him, see the set. That's Hollywood, but it's a real issue. The monitoring. Now, I'm not saying that the regulations and trying to keep the fishery going isn't bad, but it's an issue for them. It really is.
Oh, yeah.
It
Pressure
was
plot
amazing.
line.
And to have that line be in CODA, for a national audience, maybe international, to hear that issue, that was so impressive.
And they nailed it too. They got it
right.
Yep.
It's because they had a local person writing it and advising.
Yeah, Sean Hayter, amazing writer.
Yeah, between monitors and boat fuel costs, it's going to be a pretty rough ride for the fleet again this year. So, okay, great story. And the cool thing though about that is the community is still reaping the benefits of the perfect storm and wicked tuna. So it'll be nice to see what happens this summer on the heels of those 3 victories for CODA. So, all right, thanks for that. We have another feel-good piece, Ethan. Let's talk about Joan Lindberg.
Yes, and I just want to say that Joan Lindberg is going to be turning 87 in April 21st. She is the noon supervisor in Gloucester, the Beeman Elementary School, Beeman Memorial Elementary School on Cherry Street. And she has been doing this exact job, 50 years in Gloucester schools. She started out at the Fuller School. Then I think she went to O'Malley, then she went to Vets, and then she's been a long time at Beeman watching over the kids. And they invited me to a surprise party. In fact, I was the excuse to get Joan to the school that afternoon because she leaves. I said, well, the reporter wants to come and take your picture because I don't know what they told her. And then they were all standing in the auditorium waiting for her to come. And I got to interview her a little bit.
Did she cry?
No, she was like, and she had some grown grandchildren there. Her youngest granddaughter was there, a couple of her great grandkids. And no, it's good. It's good to have these kind of stories. She's not retiring. She's going to continue on to see what she can do, watching over the kids. And it's interesting because I asked her, I said, what's the toughest part with the kids? And she says, with children, saying no. I can't say no to my kids, and look what happened. So
great stuff. All right, Ethan, have an update on school facilities.
Yeah, there was a bit of an interest earlier this year with the a local Freedom Church renting space at the Beeman, which is something actually is typically done for evangelical churches around the country. It's a fairly cost-effective space, but it created some sort of uproar on social media, as everything does. But the schools committee and their subcommittee on buildings and finance has decided to take a look at the policy not in regards to who rents, but are they charging enough? Are they factoring in utility costs? Do they do long-term rentals? And that's something that they really don't do. Schools don't really do long-term rentals. Freedom Church is doing, they're renting for their service on May 1st, and then the first Sunday of the month, except July because of the 4th of July. And that's not something, the kind of arrangement they normally have. So they're looking, the school buildings are typically maintained in the summer. So parking, is there enough parking if 100 people show up for worship services? Is there enough parking at the Beeman? And they're not looking at this in relation to the church, but it did spark the issue. Do our policies need to be updated?
So Ethan, have other organizations rented from the schools in this way?
Yeah, I mean, there's they do school sports.
My fresh catches here, my Angela and Rose.
Are you
There you
serious?
go.
Is like this fish right off the boat right now?
Being
This is
delivered to my
history.
house while we're having this conversation.
Bite into a monkfish, Heather. Bite into one monkfish.
Paul Vitale personally. Oh, that's great. I got to get in on that
Yeah.
co-op. But no other groups. We're not talking about fields. Maybe Special Olympics wants to come in. The YMCA has an after-school program, and they get charged like $75 a day. There's certain fees. They think the fees are kind of low. They also have to pay custodial fees. You need a custodian in the building whenever you rent the facility. So they're gonna this subcommittee, building and finance and building subcommittee of the school committee is going to meet again on April 11th. Might be worth tuning in. Again, it's kind of dry. It's kind of the nuts and bolts of how they do it. But if you're going to have somebody do a long-term rental, can the schools accommodate it? And they also have to look at their policies in regards to safety. You have to figure out who you're going to rent to. You got to make sure everything's safe. Who gets charged? Some of that is already in the policy. A lot of it's already there.
I think somebody brought up concerns about having outside organizations be in a classroom with children's work exposed and their names and things like that. And that feels like a legitimate concern, right?
I don't know. I've been in many classrooms and they're pretty nondescript. And, when I go into a classroom, I don't really see, maybe because the last classroom I was in Gloucester was in a high school classroom.
Yeah.
It depends on which class, because it depends on which classroom. I mean,
there are often photographs of
I think the classroom space is more for the kids. I think they're going to have like a youth ministry. So the kids go off and do something while they have services, which is typical, typical in a synagogue and typical. So I don't think that's, I think really it's opened up, not so much this church, but, do they have the policies in place? Now I looked at Beverly's policy, Beverly, Mass, and compared, and they have it's like 7-page policy, much thicker, looks at the capacity of buildings, is much more detailed in its, and the fees are higher as well. That's so I'm writing that story for tomorrow, for Friday.
We'll be sure to follow up with you on that story as well, Ethan. And then lastly, Gloucester Mayor Greg Verga is approaching his 100th day in office.
Yeah, I think it's April 7. So I'm going to be meeting with him. If anyone has any good questions, Forman at northofboston.com.
There you go.
I'm interviewing her tomorrow. So look, it's been very businesslike. Things, there's been some stuff at the council, but that's more zoning has been more of a council thing. So it seems very workmanlike 100 days. He set a very ambitious goal of trying to improve the city, make one day better than the next. I don't know. I think the only thing that we've really talked about a little bit is about the parking kiosks aren't working. And that's been a kind of a long-term issue as far as getting the enforcement piece of this system up and running. So
are they still down?
I don't know. I know I just park and I don't even check. So maybe, I haven't gotten a ticket. So
I was at the museum last week and I didn't put any money in anything. And it
I
seemed
think
to
they'll make an
work
announcement.
Heather.
I think they'll make an announcement. I think they'll
out. Okay.
make an announcement. So let's not jinx it. Okay. This is great.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
I love going to the museum and not paying. I have to say to park.
Ethan, great work as always. We'll catch up with you next week. Good luck with your chat with Mayor Verga tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Kory. Have a good week.
Bye, Ethan.
Interested in a sponsorship? Email sponsor@1623studios.org to learn more.